I'd like to welcome everybody who's interested in the policy committee meeting for August. I'm Barry Malcolm, the chairman of the committee, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. And the next item on the agenda is the invocation, which I'll give very quickly. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you for the technology that allows us to be together, although we're not able to actually be together. We pray that you will allow COVID-19 to go away at some point in the very near future so that our lives will get back to close to where they were before that were to occur. We would ask that you would help us to do the right thing for people with disabilities and for the taxpayers of the state. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Commissioner Melford, would you like me to read the statement of announcement?
The next item is the statement of the announcement. Yes.
Yeah, we usually do it with the call to order, so I was sorry to jump around if you had another plan for it. For a statement of announcement, a meeting notice announcing the date, time, and place of the August 11, 2020 Policy Committee meeting was distributed August 6, 2020. To appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification, the announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Administrative Office and on the website. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistance, or other assistance will be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is obviously the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any amendments to the agenda, or add additions or deletions, as they would say, of the agenda? Hearing none, I need a motion to accept it.
Move.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. I think David would be the second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. The agenda is adopted as presented. The next item, of course, is new business, which is basically down here under A. It just says what we are to do with these policies, which is either a committee to review, which is what we're doing today mostly, or delegation to delegation of the directives for review, or delegating to staff. So in other words, delegating to another committee or delegating to staff, which I don't think we have any delegating to other committees today. So it'll probably be one of those three things. I mean, it'll obviously be one of those three things, but
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in the Finance Committee meeting the other day, didn't they send some back to us?
well, we haven't decided which ones they are yet. We are going to decide. They are going to send a couple back to us, but I'll let y'all know what that is, and we'll try to get them on this. We will get them on this year, or we'll do our best to get them on this year. We have a packed meeting for next month, particularly, so I don't think it'll be anything added to next month. That's why I added so much this month. But I don't think, for the record, this one will last. This meeting should not last as long as the last one, and you'll know why at the end. But I don't think. But anyway, sorry. Was there something else?
No, that's okay. I was just curious if we needed to add those to it or not.
No, not yet, because we aren't sure yet which ones are which. Which ones for sure. I haven't discussed that with her yet. But the next item on the agenda is section 1, I believe, which is commission meeting and public input, which relates to the policy that we've created for that purpose, and also that Ms. Constance, I assume Ms. Constance is here.
She is.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So then I need to call on her to give her information regarding public input that she has for us today.
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Commissioner Malford, I did what the committee requested of me to do from the legal office. So I first did a sweep, or I tried to research if there were any other commissions that had public input so we could compare their process to our process. I wasn't able to find any other commissions that had a public input section of their agenda. So I couldn't compare it with anyone else because it doesn't exist. I also researched to determine whether or not we were legally required to have the public input section of our agenda, and also found that there are no legal requirements that require us to have the public input.
Okay, and that's because we're only under the Freedom of Information Act, correct?
That is correct.
And that's because that has nothing to do with public information under the Freedom of Information Act. So we're only doing this as a courtesy. So we really have a decision to make in that regard. The thing is, it's a difficult decision for me because I see both sides of it. We really don't want to be seen as a tyrant of sorts and not allow people to have public input, although they can also contact us at any time, just like they do in the subcommittees. That they can't come to us in the subcommittee, but they can contact us at any time, and they can come to as of now, they can come to the commission meeting. We really have two options. One is we can say that we don't have public comment, or two is we can work on this the policy that we have created, work through the policy that we've created and make it pretty much any way we want. I actually have ideas for both. So I'd like to hear, I guess I just call on, this will be the longest, this should be the longest part of the agenda, I hope, but David, I'll kind of call on you if you don't mind, and then I'll call on Ms. Stephanie to give her opinion about this, and we'll go from there.
Okay. You want my opinion? Is that what you just asked me?
Yeah, I asked your opinion about public comment and how would you like?
All right.
To
Yeah. All the I think when we talked before, Barry, about this, I served on city council in Greenville for 6 years, then the delegation member for 28 years, and just to kind of give you what we did then. I think all the delegations around the state, when they had their delegation meetings, and ours was once a month, except in summertime for 28 years, you always had a time in the agenda where people they could sign up, and they'd get 2 or 3 minutes. Sometimes we'd have nobody, sometimes we'd have 3, 5. City council, same thing. You'd always let people have a shot at the council to say if they were opposed or in favor of something or other on the agenda. So I guess I'm just used to it. And on committee meetings, state senate, you always have, in general, I mean, there's a time for public input. So that was just sort of the standard. So I don't think anything's wrong with, and I actually think it's probably a good idea, and probably any legislator, I think, would say, particularly given the highly public involvement with DDSN, it would be wise, unless somebody's trying to abuse the system or something, but it would be wise to have some time when you can have people sign up, typically get 2 minutes, not to exceed 30 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that. I remember we did public comments one time, though, come to think of it, where it like went into 2 hours. I mean, I don't know how that happened. I think I left early, but a couple of minutes or something like that, and to be limited at the discretion of the chair. That's always your way out. If you say, the standard is 2 minutes or 3 minutes per speaker, not to exceed 30 minutes upon the discretion of the chair. So the chair can just say, enough, we're going 30 minutes. We got to get into the business of the commission. So those were the magic words, upon the discretion of the chair, if it got to be too much and we were running out of time. So that's my opinion. Yes, have time, leave it at the discretion of the chair. If it exceeds some arbitrary amount, 30 minutes or something. And I don't see that so far. Thus far, I've been on for, what have we been on, Barry, for 5 months now? Something like that? 6 months?
Well, since January.
I mean, I don't see we have the world falling in on us in terms of taking up time, but so I would say give it a certain limited amount of time at 3 minutes per speaker, and at the discretion of the chair. And we did have times when I was committee chairman, and I was committee chairman of 3 committees over 20 years. You'd always, if you had a really hot button issue, welfare reform in the general committee, I did that, and we did a bunch of reform on the prison system when I was chairman of that. And then predatory lending, there was a big hot button issue in the banking and insurance committee. So you would have sides. I mean, you would have maybe a speaker from each side, and you'd rotate. That's when you would have a full public hearing on something that might last a couple of hours. But that was dedicated to the proposition, and it was highly public and volatile. But again, that was just taken for granted. The discretion of the chair, the chairman of the Senate committee can do about whatever he or she wants to do to set schedules and all that. So in other words, discretion of the chair becomes your writing principle that keeps sanity to what could become an out of control situation. But you want to give the public the right to get in their 2 cents worth at the full thing. Some people are hard to get in touch with. And but when they're sitting up there listening, you got them. You can get in your say if you're brief enough. So there it is. That's my opinion.
I just think. I mean, I do think that that all things considered, considering how public, the more I thought about it, what do you think, Stephanie? What? Let me ask you this: Do you have an objection to anything that David just said? It would be my question.
Well, I do want to add to it. I've seen it from both sides. Okay. I've seen it from the side as a parent who wants to have input and not sure how to give that input or where to give that input. And I've also seen it from the side of school board where it goes on for hours and hours and hours. I agree with David that it is a good idea to have this public input and that it needs to be limited to 2 minutes per person and a max of 30 minutes max. I mean, I've seen it go on for hours in a school board meeting, and we just don't have. I mean, we don't have capacity to do that. I mean, we're volunteers in these positions, and while I do want to hear from the constituents, I feel like they can contact me on the phone. Our phone numbers are on the website. Our email addresses are also there, and I think that's important too. That David, that they know how to reach us, and that they can do that, in other ways.
Well, if we're going to go the route of, in the interest of time, I'm going to try to speed it up a little bit. But if we're going to go the route of public comment, which all things considered might be in the volatile situation our commission is in, and the public situation our commission is, the incredibly public situation our commission is in, it probably is the best route. But I do have a couple of ideas about how we would limit it, and we'll talk about that in a second, I guess. But technically, for the record, I think Constance said that she recommended we not do it at all. But is that right, Constance? But
well, my recommendation, it wasn't really a recommendation. It was just saying there's no legal requirement for.
Oh, absolutely, I agree with you there, dear. I mean, I think that our statement needs to say the same, and our policy needs to say that in it, just like it does now. But there was a couple of things about that I was going to say when we got to that. But Mary, what was you going to say? Sorry.
I was just going to tell you, just going to give everybody a heads up. It's right now they're limited to 7 minutes, 5 speakers. There's no subject restriction. So I think that perked my ears when David said it had to do with you have to talk about something on the agenda. That's not a restriction. And I want to just tell you from personal experience, being involved, coming to commission meetings and listening for years, it's worked very well. I guess with a few exceptions, it has been something that has given people a forum And I've availed myself of it too, as I was executive director and chair of the coalition. So it was a helpful forum. As you know, and as when people just act civilly, it's perfectly fine. I think that I think David and Stephanie are right. We have to have. I think it's very useful to us to have that.
I like the idea of there be something on the agenda, and I also like the idea that we limit the time.
Well, I was just gonna talk about limiting of the times. For the record, from what I can tell from the history of this situation, and I like history, as y'all know, they didn't have any formal process up till 2016 at all. And this started by somebody's bright idea in 2009. And so it wasn't before that we even had any public comment at all, as far as we can tell. But anyway, it increased to 6 minutes for 5 people, or
7
6
minutes.
per person for 5 people in 2016, and it was only 5 minutes per person. And I think the key is that the commission would decide if they wanted to continue. So my recommendation would be, and we can do this any way y'all want, but just to give a starting point for this thing as far as the actual policy is concerned. This policy is written, by the way, based upon the sheet that we approved last month, that Susan was able to do. What I was going to recommend, and we can talk about it from here, is to cut this down from 6 people at 5 minutes each, or is it say 5 people or 6 people? I think it says 5 people.
It's 5 people at 7 minutes each.
It's 5 people at 7 minutes each.
7 minutes each. So what I was thinking was that we would do like 3 people at 4 minutes each, and then and then we would say if the commission votes to allow it to double, then we could double that to 4 more people at 4 minutes each if we wanted to, and that would be that's the maximum, and all the rest of it would be, I mean, that's the maximum they can do, and at the discretion of the chair, they can even do less. And that's what I would say. I think once you go past 10 or 12 minutes, you need to let the commission vote whether they want to continue, because it gets kind of redundant. I mean, it can get kind of ridiculous. And with the changes that we're making, I think that once COVID-19 is over, it is going to get ridiculous if we don't do something. So that's what I would say, is it would be 4 minutes each, like either 3 or 4 people, and then ask the commission to vote if they want to go further.
Well, we also need to address, if we're going to be online like this, how we're going to handle it if it's an online meeting, because we can't take their public comment. And so we may need to say, if we're in an online format due to, various issues, we have to, unfortunately, we can't accept public comment during that meeting, or however we're going to do it.
Well, we can certainly do that, or we can say that we can have public comment in another,
We have it set up where they can call in.
Okay.
Now, they don't call in, we call them. They fill out the form online, they give us a contact number, and we're able to call them.
Okay, we need to put that in there then somehow, that's how.
It's on the website, I believe, that way.
But
Yeah.
We can put it on top of the sheet. I think it's on top of the sheet too. So we'll put it on there too.
Okay.
That can be on the sheet. I don't know that needs to be in the policy necessarily.
How
Yeah.
many days ahead currently do they have to let people know, or the morning of, or how do we get that number?
There's a cutoff at 5 o'clock the day before.
5 o'clock the day before. Okay.
The sheet says 5 minutes before, which I
Do that at school boards a lot, and they do it at, you have to have your stuff filled in, and I was looking on the online policies of different different organizations that have now that they're meeting virtually, they had to change their public comment input, and that would be school boards and city councils.
Right. So currently, to kind of adjust to that online format, I think last month they updated the online form access is what Mary was just mentioning. So the form you have as part of this policy draft doesn't have that language in it, but it could certainly be inserted and incorporated to reflect that they could, an individual wishing to provide public comment for a given commission meeting could follow that process to complete the form by 5 p.m. the day before the meeting, and then our procedure would be that we would give them the call-in information, and they would be, have limited time in the meeting, whatever time you decide.
The other thing we could say is that they just see the form, and the form says it at the top. But you could reference the other form on here. But there's only we got to decide about the time. But there's only one other quick thing I wanted to change about the policy itself, and that is that this currently says that the commission will hear but will not directly respond to an issue or viewpoint expressed, and that should say may or may not respond at the discretion of the committee of the commission members, because they should have the opportunity to respond if they want to. And instead of saying we will not respond, it should say we may or may not respond, but depending on it at the discretion of the commission members. And then, in my opinion, that's the only strong thing I have about this whole thing. That's the only strong opinion I have about it. Whatever, how many minutes we say, I want to say it's that much or less based on the discretion of the chair. Not, in other words, it can't be any more than that, but it could be less than that based on the discretion of the chair, none of the board. Because I do like the idea of making as much discretion of the chairman as possible in this regard, because they need to be able to, but it also does say in here they can stop it at any time, which basically takes care of that, I guess.
Yeah, it does.
So it kind of does take care of that. Constance did a good job with that. When she did our sheet. So really that, I don't really need to add that. I can just say, because the less could be anytime he wants to stop it. So the question is, how many minutes do we want him to go, and how many people do we want to go without the commission voting to go further? That's the question. Does like 3 or 4 minutes for 4 people sound good, or does y'all want more than that?
I think 3 minutes.
I've always been used to 3. I kind of like that. That's a nice Trinitarian idea.
I'll agree with that. 3 minutes.
3 minutes for 4 people?
Yes.
Okay, let's go with 3 minutes for 4 people, and then we'll go with 3 more minutes for 3 more people if the commission votes to do that.
That works.
You got that?
That's fine. Me.
Okay, so you're switching it from 35 minutes to, by my math, an expectation of 12 minutes at most, right? Well,
right. And then it says we'll add we'll add 3 more people at 3 minutes, so we'd add another 9 minutes if the commission votes to do it. And in other words, we would take a separate vote as to whether they want to continue or not.
okay, so just procedurally, if you had enough people sign up to give public comment, or public input rather, at a given meeting, then the chair would ask the commission to make a vote to accept up to 3 more people at 3 minutes each.
That's right.
In addition to the other time frame already in revision. Okay, I've got it.
That's right.
So are we wanting to move forward with making this a policy versus keeping it as a procedure?
Yes, it's going to be a policy of the commission, and we'll change the policy if we decide to change it. But as of now, this is our new policy. This is a true policy for the commission, and it should reference that sheet that we've created for people to sign up. But that's really 2 separate things.
You can make that an attachment.
Yeah, it is an attachment. Actually, it is the attachment, but we need to update it based on that online procedure that's in place that's fairly new. So we'll insert that. rather than dictating exactly what it is, it might be a good idea to refer them to the form in case that online thing we can get even better with technology as it gets better. That's okay with everybody.
Because that might change, yeah. If we can get better technology, you're right.
Yes, and hopefully we won't be doing much of this method anymore after COVID-19 is over. We'll see. Okay, well that's really the only.
Barry, let me ask a question, and I don't want to get so focused on. I mean, you would think this should be just a fairly simple, if the public wants to hear. What if you did have a really hot button kind of thing, and you wanted to do a public hearing on something? Do we want to have one little sentence in there that says that this rule shall not apply to any public hearing that the commission may decide to have on a subject?
We certainly could say that. I was going to say that would be in a situation where the commission would ask somebody to come in, and that's a whole different matter. If we ask somebody to come in, that's different than them requesting to speak. I thought that would be under that policy, which means we don't have a policy for that. I mean, we can have anybody speak anytime they want if we ask them to come in, or we can just add your sentence. That's fine.
Right.
So asking somebody to come in would be if the commission decided to have a public hearing, then you're asking the public to participate if they wish. That would be wide open then.
That's right. Because we'd be asking them to come in then instead of them asking us. This is them asking us.
Then the one phrase that would exclude such a possibility would simply say these rules do not apply to any public hearing the commission may deem necessary.
Or yeah, the commission requests to, the commission deemed necessary. Yeah, that's good. You could put that at the end.
Yeah, let's just not box ourselves in so that we find that we can't do something that all of us might want to do. So that's fine. I don't want to overthink it. It just, on some of these things, I think we can overthink things, but I think, I believe what we got is pretty good.
I mean, I think we could overrule our policy. But anyway, if you got that one last change, we need to move on to the next one. This has been long.
I do have it. I'll enter that.
That one sentence, it says that we can, read that sentence again for me, please.
I've called it a policy instead of a rule, if that's okay. This policy does not apply to any public hearing the commission may deem necessary.
Good.
And specifically the titling on the policy, if you like it, is commission meeting public input. So that's going to, really be more of this very structured governance kind of meeting. So that does clarify it in case there's any conflict later as well.
Yeah, and everybody here should notice that it says in some committees they cannot do that. They only do us as as they write in, which is the way we want to keep it, I think. And so, and by the way, this format was changed in 2016. We just changed. My predecessor did it. I'm not sure where she came up with the 6 minutes and all that, but 7 minutes and all that. But anyway, that was done in 2016. Curiously, I was curious to know all that, and I appreciate very much the effort that was made to get that information for me, and for the commission in general.
Commissioner Melfors, I just have two just remaining questions as you go through this draft in front of you. On page 2, there's a number 3, and it says no more than 5 citizens will be selected to address the commission during any one meeting. What number would you like that to be? According to my math, if you have 3 to 4 people, that's put you as a max of 4. And then if you did another vote up to 3 people, then that would be a max of 7 people.
That's right. But what we're doing is we're saying it's a max of 4 unless the commission votes. So it's 4 plus 3 if the commission votes to do it.
Okay.
So it's 7 is the absolute total. But I don't even know if we want to go that far to put that, because the commission's got to vote to do the other 3.
Right. So maybe that would be a notation to refer back to the section that'll say, if the commission votes as such, 3 more people can be added to any given meeting public input. 3 minutes each. Maybe that's reference there. I just want to clear that up because there's a lot of,
And then,
there's
and
a
then,
lot of
and
math, yeah.
that's right. There's a lot of, there is some math in there. The other thing is that the key thing is that we can choose at a meeting not to have them come at all and not to have any public comment if we want. If we got a lot to do and the commission decides they don't want any public comment, we can do that too. You know, and like in June's meeting, I don't think we should have any public comment next June because the meeting in June is way too long as it is. So we should try not to have any public comment in June. But anyway, I'm joking about that partially. We don't need to put that in there. Go ahead. What?
Well, as I was going to say, if the agenda is packed, do you want to have a caveat just to provide freedom? It might never be used, but you could just, say the chair may decide if no public comment is included in the agenda based on the agenda activities or something, or I don't know if you all want to talk about that for a sec.
I mean, I have no problem with that. Do you have a problem with that, David?
No problem.
Well, I don't know. That's when people might need to be heard when you got a packed agenda, but it's more likely somebody would want to be heard. I mean, you're only talking about less than 20 minutes anyway. So I just don't see that the way you structured it so far. I just leave it alone.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you have a problem with that, Stephanie?
No, I think that's fine.
All right. We'll just leave it alone. All right. We'll leave that alone.
Strike
that off.
Okay, I did. My other question was, Mary made a good comment as she was hearing Commissioner Thomas's summary about public input being related to agenda topics. Is that something you all want to discuss now, or did we accomplish that?
Shouldn't it be related to agenda topics?
Can I just say one thing about that? We do have people that get up and tell us good stories about things that happen out there. And if we don't have good stories that happen out there as an agenda topic. I mean, I'd be happy to put that on there, but but basically, folks do get up to report, like the Witten Center Parents Group always comes up with what they've been doing, and just to kind of give the commission an update on that. I guess we could put them on the agenda, but it's nice to have a place where folks can also tell you about something that's going on out there, or introduce.
I misspoke. I apologize, because I think there's certain circumstances it should be. If you had a call meeting for a public meeting, then you got an agenda item. But I kind of like the ad-libbing. I mean, let them come in and talk and tell us what they think. That's okay. So, I mean, don't limit. I mean, they're only getting 3 minutes, so just let them talk about what they want. That's fine.
Yeah, we don't have to limit it to the topic on the agenda. I mean,
I leave that. If that somehow got put in, leave that out.
It's not in.
Get up and talk. You got 30.
It's not in there.
Right. I was just inquiring because it came up in discussion and I didn't think it concluded, and I wanted to make sure you all had fully entertained that. That's all.
Thank you. Very good.
I'm fine with leaving it wide open.
I'm fine with leaving it wide open too. Very good, Susan. Very good. That's right. But we just fixed that. Okay.
Okay. We did have. I'm sorry. I thought there was. That was my last question. I'm so sorry. Does given this component for commission meetings, I know Commissioner Malfors, the current draft says that only public input will be provided for subcommittee meetings in writing. We haven't specifically notated there how they're supposed to do that, where they're supposed to do that, except we've said this input must be submitted to the subcommittee chair no less than 5 business days prior to the scheduled meeting. It really varies. Like, for instance, in the policy committee meeting, the policy committee procedures say, and also another directive say that, comments on directives being revised and out for external review have to be submitted in writing. So, the expectation for that committee would be that, this committee would be that people wouldn't, be submitting additional public comment to the chair because it would be about the directives that would go through that formal process. So I just wanted to make sure you all had thought through that addition and you were good with it before we moved on, or if you felt like it needed some sort of edits.
We might need to edit that to say that they need to submit it to somebody in y'all's office. Would it be instead of to the chairman?
Sure, do that.
Wouldn't you think, David and Stephanie?
Yes.
I'm fine.
Who should we submit it to in y'all's office, Mary?
The only employee of the commission is the state director, so I'm helping Mary kind of think through that a little bit. That would be my thought.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I would just do that, to submit it to me.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, we got that now. So so we're ready to vote on the public comment policy.
I'll move to change
Good.
it.
All right, Stephanie's made a motion. Do we want a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Obviously, Susan, let me see that if you would, please, when you make sure y'all got it all, that we got what we think's here whenever you get done. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. So we have for the first time in the history, even though we've been having public comments since 2006, we have a policy now on that subject.
There you go.
Goodness for those who are on the policy committee. Next item on the agenda is the bylaws, which I wanted to go over. There's only a few little things I wanted to change in there. I think the bylaws are good overall. I really do. But they haven't been updated since 2007. And so I thought it was a good idea today, since I want to do it sometime this year. And we thought we had a little bit of time on this agenda to do this one. There's only a few things, and I'm not, I wouldn't be up. I mean, there's a few recommendations I wanted y'all to look at, and we may or may not adopt them. I just wanted you to look at them. The first one is relating to the bylaws is that the same thing is currently in our ends policy, but the statement that talks about the commission expects that we are a regulatory agency, and that the thing about the funds and the resources, how we allocate the resources, I wanted that added to the bylaws because I think it's very important for them to realize we're for the bylaws to reflect that we're a regulatory agency and what that means. That was one thing I wanted to insert. And then the next thing is under election of officers. It's also in our ends policy that it says that no commission, policy, department directive, or procedure or regulation shall be interpreted to limit the commissioner's right as a citizen, or to limit their authority given by the governor or the commission. I think that's the most important thing to add in there of all, because that's not in there right now, and it really should be, so that there's no confusion about what we're trying to do or not trying to do. And then the next item related to to FOIA and how if there is a conflict, it says it already in there. This is not really a change. It says it already, but I just didn't think it was clear enough, and I just want to make it clear that if there is a problem, there is a conflict with the bylaws or with Robert's Rules of Order, that FOIA would trump all those, and we obviously are that basically that the Freedom of Information Act supersedes any discrepancies with those two policies, or those two with those two situations. Obviously, with Robert's Rules of Order, I mean, we want to be in Robert's Rules of Order, but we don't want to be too technical either. And so and obviously the Freedom of Information Act is very, very important for us to go by. So that's why that's in there. Well, that's what my idea was. And if somebody has a problem with any of this stuff, stop me so we can talk about it. I have no problem talking about it, but I'll explain more about why I thought it should be or not. The next one is simply that when we talk about under Article 7 of the committees, we just have a notation in there that talks about the policy that we've created that defines the committees, so that you go straight to the committees and go straight to that policy and define the committees. That's something that's not in there. That wasn't in there before because they didn't have this. They didn't have a definition of committees before. And then the last thing I had down here was, unless I've skipped something, I don't think I have. The last thing I had down here was something that we could certainly take out or leave in. It's really an idea I had because in all the commissions, all the boards and commission or boards I've been on in my life, which is really a lot, they all made it to where the bylaws were a very, not only an important thing, but a very, they're supposed to kind of stand the test of time. And in this case, they have, because they haven't been updated since 2007, but it really needs to be more difficult than just the majority of people, in my opinion, changing it. It should be it should be a relatively difficult thing to change. And so my idea to make it a little bit more difficult to change was, because right now it simply says that we can have a meeting at any time and a majority of the commission can change the bylaws to say whatever they wanted to say. And the bylaws normally, like I say, is a very strong document for organizations. And so what I've seen in many of the other boards that I've been on is it says that it takes a special meeting instead of just a meeting, just any meeting. In other words, you have to call a meeting for the purpose of the bylaws, of changing the bylaws, and then you have to have a 2/3 majority of the board or commission or whatever in order to change it. Which simply means in our case that we have to have 5 members of the 7 to agree to change it, which is what I think we should do. But that's, if there is any controversial thing about this bylaws, that would be it. And I would just, and that would be what I'd want to change. But I would ask first, I guess I'll ask David's opinion about what, about do you have any problems with any of the changes that I've talked about?
No, I don't. I don't think so.
Okay, well, that's what I would like to see if we don't.
Mr. Chairman, question, why disabilities and marked out in the top of the bylaws?
Yeah, so I was hoping y'all wouldn't catch that we edited the wrong word. Really, the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs is the state agency title. The commission's title is the Disabilities and Special Needs Commission. So we just kind of caught the wrong word there. I'll fix that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I was like, God,
can't get it by you. That was just a regular little typographical problem.
Anyway, sorry, that was just one of my little things.
I'll catch that. Thanks.
Very good. Okay, if there's no other objection to the bylaws changes, then can I get a motion that we bring this to the commission?
I move.
Second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there no further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. The amendments are made as on your sheet. The next item on the agenda is the governance process policy. And one of the reasons I wanted to go through this was that it was the next to the last 800 level policy that we have not been through. And so I wanted to make sure we went through all of them before this year was over. And the only thing I would consider adding to it is not really adding anything to it. I don't even want to change anything except to clarify what we just clarified in this bylaws, which is to say that if there's any conflict with the Freedom of Information Act, that the Freedom of Information Act trumps any the other two acts. It says that in there too, but there again, it's not as clear as it is in what we just approved in the bylaws. So would there be an objection to taking that paragraph out of there and putting that paragraph in that we just put in the bylaws? It also makes it better because to me, because it reflects the same. In other words, you could read it in two different places and see the same thing, which is consistency, which I love. And so, does anybody have an objection to that in the governor's policy?
I'm fine.
It's fine.
Okay. Other than that, I didn't see any problem with the governor's policy unless y'all do. Is there a motion to, and believe me, I'm not trying to hurry. I'm just trying to move on if there's nobody has a problem. So if you do, please stop me. But is there a motion to accept the governor's policy as amended?
I move.
Second.
Second. Okay. Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the Public Invocation Act. And the real reason I brought this up was because it is truly the last one that is an 800 level policy that we have not looked at yet. And it looks fine to me, except for unless somebody has an objection to anything, except to say, and I'm surprised it doesn't say long before now, but it doesn't say that the subcommittees can have an invocation as well as at the discretion of the chair, obviously, as well as the regular meetings of the commission. So I just wanted to add that you'll see right there where it says permitting a public invocation at the beginning of the monthly, permitting a public invocation for the committee meetings or subcommittee meetings is all it says. We could put down there the discretion of the chairman if you want. That might make more sense because it really would be the chairman's, decision to make, I guess. Or we don't have to add that in. We just leave it just like I got it, or like me and Susan have it here now.
But I think it might be a good idea to put it at the discretion of the chair.
I agree.
Thank you. We'll add that in. Susan, you see that?
I got it.
Thank you very kindly. The next item on the agenda, I got to find because I'm out of order here. I'm sorry. But the next item on the agenda is number 5, which is the dual relationships policy. I got to find my dual relationships policy real quick because there was one thing I wanted to add about that. It just says that the consideration should be given. What page is it on, Susan?
Sure. It's on the very last page, page 3 of the relationships directive. It would be on pages 11 to 13 of the packets. But I can read it for you if you'd like me to. It says consideration should be given to avoiding potential situations creating a conflict of interest in which the person supported would not feel empowered to exercise their making a decision to choose a new provider. And
right.
that was discussed in the last policy committee meeting and drafted based on that recommendation.
Right. If y'all remember, that's what we talked about what I really wanted to see added because of the respite policy, and not only because of the respite policy, but because of any policy. But it really is meant to be able to make people understand that that they need to consider, as long that they don't want to get they don't want to pay anybody that they wouldn't be comfortable dismissing, is basically what it's about. And also that, well, really that's what it's about, but also that this policy would, I mean, that our respite policy would refer to this policy in it for anybody that read the respite policy, or any other policy we thought that was important on it. We don't really need to redo the policy because we're just adding it at the bottom of the policy, if you'll notice, of the respite policy, which is the last thing on here. I mean, the last, we're just adding it at the bottom, if you'll notice, where it says, so you can reference a policy. I just felt like it was very important that we reference that policy in, so that if somebody read one, they would have a tendency to read the other if it was referenced. That's the only other thing I want to do about that. But that's the other big thing to talk about. Does anybody have any problem with the with putting that in the dual relationships policy?
No.
No.
Okay. And by the way, I think somebody did a good job with our dual relationships policy. Some of these policies are not as good as others, but that one was a good one. I don't know who did that one, but when they originally did it, but it looked very thorough to me. It's as thorough. It's almost as thorough as these other policies that we're going to defer to next month. So anyway, we need a motion to accept the change of the dual relationships policy.
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. None opposed. Motion carries. Okay. The next item on the agenda is, after the dual relationships policy, is the majority of the rest of the meeting, or the majority of your packet, I should say. It's not the majority of the rest of the meeting, because I don't know how much we'll be discussing it now. And we are, by the way, we are record time rolling, so we are thankful for the committee's diligence, and for Susan's diligence in getting this stuff done, and for Constance's diligence in helping us with the I could go on and on with the public comment and all that sort of thing. We thank everybody for their help. But anyway, we're about 5 or 10 minutes from done, and it's only almost 4. So, but anyway, the last item on the agenda really is the documents for the Healthcare Consent Act, and they are very, very important policies that we're trying to go over and trying to get straight, and they're probably some of the more important policies outside of the commission policies that we have, to me. And so our diligent staff thinks they need some more time to get these policies straight, and they really just wanted to give them to us today in order for us to get an idea of what it's going to be like in September when we have our meeting and we go through these policies directly. I don't think there'll be much more on the agenda except for this, except for these directives at the next meeting, because we will take at least this long or longer to go through just them, I would think. I have seen them, and they are detailed, and I think some of them make it a little bit more complicated than it has to be, but Ms. Constance is working on that too. And so, and I'll have a couple of ideas about that, more ideas on what I've already had. and anybody else can have any ideas. But the main reason we wanted you to read them today was because if you do have any comments about them, we really are going to delve into them in detail if nobody has any objection next month. And we will, and that'll be at the September 8th Policy Committee meeting, when we will finalize the revisions for the review and propose the necessary revisions for the October commission meeting. And Constance will also have some slides that she'll share as to what the Adult Care Consent Act is about and that sort of thing. We had, she's already got part of that done already, but we thought it might change based on some things that she's discovering, because she is a discoverer, you know, so as she discovers things, we have to change things. So, so we'll see what she discovers for the September meeting. Do you want to say? I don't think you do right now, but I don't guess you do right now, Constance. But do you want to say anything about this before we make a motion to take all these to y'all for September?
No, Commissioner Mathers, my only question or request, it's my understanding that for the DDSN to submit questions to the AG's office, that we have to get the permission of the commissioner to do so. So there may be several questions in regard to the Adult Health Care Consent Act that I would like for the AG's office to do some research on. So I guess at this point, I'm requesting permission to do so.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we allow her to make that contact with the AG's office.
Do I have a second? I have no problem with that, David.
Second, if we need it.
I guess we need it. Well, we really don't need it. I really can second with a 3-member committee. But anyway, motion made and seconded. Is there further discussion about that? Hearing none, those in favor? Those opposed? Constance, would you mind letting me know whenever you know what you're going to ask them?
Yes.
Not the whole thing. I don't want the whole thing. I'd go crazy because it'd be so legal. But just generally what you wanted to, what we're asking them for.
Right now, I only have
like a summary. I mean, if you don't have it now, it's fine. I'm just saying between now and then, would you let me know what like a summary of it is?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, if you don't have it now, it's fine. I know you and I talked about one of the things, but I don't know what else. I think there might be 2 or 3 things. And I hope they can get back to us in that length of time. By the way, if they don't, this will be on the October meeting, and not the September meeting. And by the way, another thing I wanted to say before let me do that before I say adjournment. Is there a motion to move to table these policies until the next meeting?
So
there's been a
Second.
motion. Okay, there's been a second. So so basically what we're doing, I'm sorry I didn't do that right. We are tabling the Healthcare Consent Act documents and directives for the September meeting. And then, so motion made and seconded with no further discussion. We've already done those in favor, and so those opposed, motion carries. None opposed, motion carries. The only thing I wanted to say about before we adjourn, and this is a positive note, is that one of the reasons we're putting so many policies on the committee is that we're trying to take December off, and we're trying to get all of our stuff done that we wanted to get for the first 6 months done and be able to take December off. And so that's what our goal is. So or that's what I should say what my goal is, and I don't think anybody on the committee would object to that, considering we've worked so hard so far. And so the next thing I want to say is that it's only 4:05, which I really think is a feat. I mean, I really think we really should be proud of that. And we've got it done, and everybody's happy with what we've done so far, so I'm very thankful. But is there anything else that needs to come before Mary or Mayor, do you have anything else to come before the policy committee before we adjourn?
Sir, I'm glad we're doing our due diligence with this adult, our consent policies, because there are a lot of folks that rely on this kind of information to do their jobs out in the community. So I do appreciate y'all taking your time and going through the actual law and getting this policy correct.
Yeah, I really think there's a lot of revisions in it that need to be made that's not really in the law, and we need to be following the law directly, and we need to update another one of our policies. What was the policy that another policy that we were adding to this that we were going to update in September? Susan, what did you call it? The one I didn't know what it was?
Sure, in September, and we've already got kind of a draft working agenda sketched out, so that's what we're referring to. We're going to kind of put in together the advanced directive. I hate to use the word directive too much, but advanced healthcare directives, and that refers to kind of end of life decisions and has some parameters associated with it. So Constance is, like you said, discovering just any of those connections that need to be made or cannot be made, and just studying it as a whole, making sure all the language matches up. So that's called advanced directives. It's 535-12DD.
Right. So what we're doing is not only deciding who's in charge of deciding what somebody's situation is if they cannot, but we're also deciding what their end of life decisions would be and that sort of thing, which I think is very important. Actually, I think it's very important for anybody to do that, but it's particularly important for us to get those that we serve to be done that way in that regard, so that we'll know what's expected if when that day comes for them, and whether they can decide for themselves or not decide for themselves. That's very important. We assume that we assume they can unless two doctors say they can, of course, but we do need to get that resolved so that there's no discrepancy whenever that time comes. And we'll talk about that more later. There's a couple other things I want to say about it, but we really don't need to talk about it now, because we're really going to devote most of our meeting next time to it, or either in September or October, more than likely September. So unless there's anything else, I don't have any problem with adjourning, with entertaining a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, do we have a date and time for our next meeting?
It'll be September. It's the second Tuesday in September, which is the 8th, and we say?
Yes.
It'll be September 8th at 3:00.
Very good.
Um,
Move to adjourn.
okay, we have a motion to adjourn. We really don't need a second, but we'll take it. David, I guess you want a second, man. You don't want to say anything else before we quit?
No.
Okay, good. Then I'm gonna hush because I talk too much.
Okay.
I apologize.
Thank y'all.
So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good night. Thank you, Stephanie. And Susan, thank you very much.